What is up, guys? It is Simba here, and welcome back to another SLR video on the channel. And this is round number 4 for the Portuguese Grand Prix, and here are the standings on screen. We actually got demoted to P10 in Australia, so we got 1 extra point. We got demoted from P8 to P10, and yeah, it's not looking good in both championships, but we're looking to bounce back here. Make sure you get subscribed for some more league racing content. And going into this one, we're actually feeling pretty confident. I did a race in Big 2s on the Friday, as we have a bit of a moment in the last corner. We had a really good race in Big 2s, and we're feeling pretty confident. I'm looking to do a really solid job here to get our season underway, because after this, it's Monaco. As you can see, Roller does a 15.9 in the first lap. We only managed a 16.5, which is pretty rubbish in comparison to the Mercedes.
15.9.
A low 9 as well. Well, you picked a good time to do it.
I'm barely getting a fucking 0.
Yeah, all 3 of my sectors are terrible. I did a 0.6. I did like a midpoint. Oh no, I did a 0.6 in the middle.
I just about did a 0.7 in Sector 1.
I did a high 0.8 in Sector 1.
A high 0.8?
It was so you can hear
ideal.
Me, Darren and Metal comparing sector times, and at the moment our 3 sectors are pretty bad, especially the first sector, which is where we can find quite a bit more time. As here we go into turn 1, 6th gear, making sure you carry as much speed as possible through that corner. As an Alfa Romeo, I think of Zydrad, moves out the way beautifully through turn 3, and through turn 4 we don't really get the confidence down on the throttle. You can actually bury the throttle through there, and we've only gained half a tenth, and we have done a low 0.8 first sector, which isn't great. The exit of turn 5 isn't great either, so this lap isn't really going well, and you know, we are starting to feel a bit of pressure because we're down in P13 now, as we have a massive moment through turn 8, losing the back end, and I actually decided to just back off because you can see we're marginally up on the delta when we could find so much more time. So we're going to decide to go again. Here we go then. Down the main straight, heading towards turn 1. Open up the corner as much as possible, but we open it up too much.
What am I fucking doing?
Come on, that's good.
Me!
Come on.
It's literally me. I can't fucking do a lap anymore.
And you can hear my absolute frustration. I actually had a head loss here because I know I could do a good lap. It's just not coming together. Meanwhile, my teammate, Medal, as you can see on the timing screens now, he's currently P8 on a 16.0. So the margins in qualifying are really close, just like last season. And at the moment, we are nowhere near. We are P14, 6 tenths down. And if we find half a second, we'll barely scratch ourselves into the top 10. So everyone is actually deciding to put in some really good laps around this track. Normally, some people don't put in a lap that is actually representative of what they can do in these sessions. So we've got it all to do with just under 2 minutes to go. You've seen the title of this video. Let's see what we can do on our last attempt. Enable hot lap just before you turn on the DRS as you blast down towards the main straight, where you've got to spot the 50-meter board at turn 1, but it's been knocked over. So there's a white line there that we spot, 6th gear, and we absolutely nail turn 1. And now going into turn 3, you spot again another white line on the outside. We missed the apex just a little bit, but now we carry so much more speed through turn 4, and we've nailed the first sector with a 21.6.
You'll never believe it.
Shut up. Meanwhile, you can hear me telling Darren to shut up, as we have done our personal best in the first sector, and now we are getting things together through turn 8, this time a little bit closer to the inside curb, and very nice traction on the exit. And now we are starting to cook in this final attempt through turn 9 into 10, sweeping right hand to pick up a late apex and take down the throttle as soon as possible. And we've gone purple again. We are 5 tenths up. We might be on the money here for a really good lap right at the end of the session. There's a car on the left hand side that moves out of the way before the final corner. Down to 3rd gear, pick up the throttle as soon as possible, and now it's just a run down the hill towards the line. We are nearly 6 tenths up, coming towards the line. Open DRS as soon as you cross the line, and that is a 15.916, 2,000 off pole. And that is us down to P3 as Elite risks steals pole from Roller's grasp at the end. Eventually, we get dropped down to P5, but I never felt more relief doing a really good lap right at the end. You can see that it's so close in qualifying. The top 5 covered by less than 2/10, literally a 10th and a half covering myself to medal down in 12th place, and less than half a second covering the top 14. The margins were really tight, and nailing that lap has given us a great chance to do well in the race because it's so difficult to overtake around this track. So we have nailed qualifying and we're in a great position for the race. And honestly, that might be probably my best lap on the game so far. We needed that lap, and now it's time to think about the race. We're going to be starting on the medium tyre for the first time this season because with Portugal on this game, the tyre compounds are C3, 2, and then the hards are C0. So they're an awful race tyre, and we're going to go onto the softs later on in the Grand Prix. So let's see what we can do from P5 on the grid in Portugal, and the lights are out, and we are underway here in Portimao. And you can see Finn on the hard tyres going absolutely nowhere off the line, and we move up into P3, but Roller is on our inside into turn 1. We give him the space, we give each other the space, which is great to see here. Going into turn 4, turn 3, I wanted to try a switchback, but Ham has come up on the inside there, and he's going to get a really good run out of turn 4 with the switchback. And now he's got the inside line. Going into turn 5, we hit the brakes pretty late, making sure that we give him space, because normally we would have collided by now, but we get the much better traction out of turn 5, and we maintain P4. We actually move up into P4 thanks to Finn's horrible start on the hard tyres. So it's a really good start to the race, and now we haven't used any battery as well, so now we could try and just settle down into the race. But now Ham isn't quite finished with us and is draining everything to overtake us now.
Why is Ham draining so much already?
You can hear me say, why is Ham draining so much? Because I could tell he was draining because I wasn't using any battery on that main straight. But we let him go because, you know, it's pretty important to save VRS, because once you use it around this track, it's very hard to get it back. And the second main point is, it is crucial to stay in DRS. This place is pretty much a haven for DRS trains, and you're going to see that by the time we get to lap 6, we've completely dropped the hard runners. It's really hard to get the hard tyres into a good operating window around this track because it's a C0 tyre. So it's just absolutely rubbish in the race, and that's exactly what's happened to Finn and Snipes on the hards. As we move on to lap 7 now, we are struggling with battery. Like I said before, we're really struggling with DRS lately as we get our first warning for track limits on lap 7. Again, we just made the same mistake as we did in qualifying, where we just opened up the first corner a little bit too much, and we are struggling to stay with the DRS. We have a moment
to fucking stop
at turn 4, and you can hear my teammate Medal, who's down in 12th place, getting frustrated around with the cars around him as we get our second warning for track limits. But this is what I was saying earlier at the end of qualifying. Track position is crucial around here. You could have better pace than the car in front, but it won't matter because it's so hard to overtake around here. And you need to manage the battery, you need to manage the warnings as well, as we're struggling with that at the minute. As you can see, by the time we get to the end of lap 11, we have dropped out of DRS, and the ERS isn't really there. So it is a bit frustrating at the moment, as we were in DRS before, but now we've been dropped out. But we're going to try and keep pushing. But as we go into turn 1, we get our third warning for track limits. And if you actually watch it back, it was literally just a lapse of concentration on the inputs going into the first corner. You can see I just stopped turning. I think I made the corner, and I just went over the white line. And it's a bit unfortunate.
Just keep pushing. Everyone else can do the same thing you've just done. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. It's not over yet.
Wait, do people?
And you can hear my teammate Medal just telling me it's alright, you could just keep going because everyone is going to be making the same mistake as you, because it's really tricky with track limits around this track. But I can tell you,
It's annoying.
not many people actually got penalties.
Break for damn corner.
People actually decided to behave around this track. So it turns out that you should bear that penalty in mind, because it will come back to bite us one way or another towards the end of this race. As you can see, we're just continuing to get dropped out by the top 4 by just not having DRS. And by the time we get to lap 18, the tyres are going off. The left front has its 70%, and we're thinking about strategy now.
A lot of people are undercutting, so if you want to come in this lap, I think that's probably, that might be you now and then me, the lap later, I think. That's right, I think, personally.
Copy that, mate. Don't want to risk a puncture when I'm in a good position.
Of course. A lot of people are undercutting, so it might close the gap, so try and cover yourself a little bit.
And you can hear the comments between myself and my teammate. We're going to box at the end of this lap. Some people have gone for an undercut attempt, so we'll just cover ourselves from those guys. Riggsy and I think Jam did as well. They did the undercut on lap 17 for new tyres. And Riggsy's gone for softs, and we're going to go for soft tyres as well. And this is going to be 15 laps to the end of the race, which is going to be a bit shaky because the left front is the main problem for me. Tyre wear wise, I don't think we are the best at managing tyres. I think I have a bit more wear than everybody else, so I think that might have to do with tyre pressures. So I'll have to try and figure that out for another race. We come out in 10th place behind Arbon and Evoke Replay, who also actually has a penalty. So we're not the only one with a penalty, but around us, no one else does. As you can see, we skip on to our outlap now on the softs. Arbon rolls out the red carpet and lets us through, making us lose minimal time. What a nice lad. Thank you very much. We move up into P9 on track, and now we've got Evoke Replay on an old set of medium tyres, and we should be a lot faster. And actually, we need to actually make this move as soon as possible, because he actually turns out to just be trying to hold up everyone, or as many people as possible, to help his teammate, because he doesn't know where his teammate is or who he's fighting in this race. He doesn't know that Riggsy's actually going to be fighting me for the next 14 laps of this race. So Evoke managing to piss off a few people by just staying out as long as possible, and now we're going to pass him with DRS round the outside into turn 1, easy as you like, and there is an overtake in this race on track, and we move up into P6. You can see the gap between myself and SLR Jam is 3.7 seconds, so it was a good move to get that undercut in, to cover ourselves from the undercut attempt, because if we stayed up one more lap we might have got a puncture, or we would have been completely undercut and lose that 5, 6, 7 second gap we had to the guys in P6 and 7. So for the next 14 laps we're going to be pushing as much as possible. We set an 18.3 as a personal best, and we're just going to keep going. You can see the gap between myself and Riggsy is 3.1 seconds.
He's absolutely shafted Medal there. He didn't get damage, but he held up Medal like so much to the point he lost a second or two to Mitzi. That's unbelievable, man.
And you can hear Darren, meanwhile, talking about Evoke Replay, and apparently he's really hurt our teammates' chances of staying in that DRS range at the back of the grid, and Medal has lost out as a result. So Evoke showing that he's got no brain cells since our Division 1 days, so that's great to see. Our teammate having no luck so far this season in the first 4 races. He really should have points by now, but he doesn't, which really sucks. So, because we're a really good team, you know, we keep getting unlucky with one card and slightly fortunate with the other one. But meanwhile, we're going to keep pushing. The gap now is about 3.5, 3.6 seconds now, as we do a 19.8 at the end of lap 26. And you can actually, I was going to mention really, Darren pitted on the same lap as us. I completely forgot to mention that. He had an old set of softs because he went for the balanced allocation where you only have 3 sets of soft tyres. And as a result, he had no fresh sets for the race because he used all 3 of them at the beginning of qualifying. So, yeah, Darren making a really newbie mistake there. And it's hurt his entire race because he was not happy with the soft tyres. They were awful on a used set. So, Darren not using the soft tyres to good effect thanks to the balanced allocation. As we move on to the last lap now, you can see that the gap is 3.7 seconds, but Snipes in the Alfa Romeo on medium tyres has just passed Riggsy. Riggsy told me after the race that his tyres were shot with 3 laps to go, so we just built more of a gap between myself and the Alfa Tauri, but now Snipes on the mediums, which are the better race tyre at this phase of the race.
Snipes is going to get me, isn't he?
is going to close the gap massively, and I know what's coming. You can hear me say, he's going to get me, isn't he? Meanwhile, we're going to try and push as much as possible. You can see the gap now is just over 3 seconds. He's really made that gap a lot smaller than it was at the beginning of the last lap, as our tyres are off the cliff, as Corey wins in Portugal. Meanwhile, we're going to get 5th place on the road, but are we going to be able to keep it by the time Snipes crosses the line? Let's see what happens.
Fuck's sake, he got me.
And sadly, the answer is no. Snipes ended up getting us by 0.2 of a second, and that is us demoted to P6. We were the only person in the top 10 to get a penalty, which is very frustrating because I expected a lot more people to get penalties, but it turns out everyone decided to behave, so we just lost out 1 position. Honestly, I'm not too bothered because, first of all, we nailed qualifying for once, and second of all, the pace was really good except for the top 4 where we got dropped out. And yeah, it was good pushing for 14 laps straight on the softs, so I feel like, you know, this is what I want to be doing, you know, trying to fight for those top 5-6 places consistently. And we've managed to get our first top 6 finish on the board this season, so we can carry this momentum forward. And next up is Monaco, which is going to be tough. So check out the 2 videos on screen if you haven't seen them, and I'll see you all in the next one.